When you open your medicine cabinet, you probably see bottles and boxes filled with pills, capsules, or liquids. You trust that what's inside is safe and will work as intended. This trust isn't accidental. It is the result of a powerful, systematic process working behind the scenes. This process is called Quality Risk Management, or QRM. It acts as an unseen guardian for every single medicine you take. It is a fundamental pillar of the modern pharmaceutical industry. The goal is simple but profound, to ensure the safety, quality, and effectiveness of every dose from the factory to your home. It's a promise made to patients everywhere. Think of it like building a bridge. Engineers don't just hope it will be strong enough, they carefully calculate every potential stress point. They think about high winds, heavy traffic, and even earthquakes. They identify all the things that could possibly go wrong and design solutions to prevent them. The pharmaceutical industry does the same for your medicines. Companies use QRM to proactively identify potential hazards that could compromise a drug's quality. This isn't about reacting to problems after they happen. It is about preventing them from ever occurring in the first place, ensuring that the medicine you rely on is consistently safe and reliable every single time. This proactive approach is mandated by global health authorities like the US Food and Drug Administration and the European Medicines Agency. They recognize that simply testing a few pills from a large batch isn't enough to guarantee quality. Instead, they require companies to build quality into the entire process, from the initial research to the final packaging. Quality risk management provides the framework for doing this. It helps manufacturers make smart, science-based decisions. It guides them on where to focus their attention and resources, ensuring that the most significant risks receive the most scrutiny. It is the bedrock of modern pharmaceutical manufacturing. Ultimately, the importance of QRM comes down to one person, the patient. For someone managing a chronic illness or fighting a serious infection, a poor quality medicine isn't just an inconvenience. It can be a life-threatening event. A dose that is too strong could be toxic, while a dose that is too weak could be ineffective, allowing a disease to progress. Quality risk management is the industry's commitment to protecting the health and well-being of every individual. It is the system that ensures the medicine you take today and the one you take next year will meet the highest standards of safety and efficacy. In everyday life, risk can mean many things, from the risk of being late for a meeting to the risk of rain on a picnic. In the world of pharmaceuticals, however, risk has a very specific and critical meaning. It is formally defined as the combination of the probability of harm occurring and the severity of that harm. This isn't just about something going wrong, it's about understanding how likely it is to go wrong and how bad the consequences would be for a patient if it did. This two-part definition is the cornerstone of all risk management activities in the industry, focusing every decision squarely on patient safety. Let's break that down further. The first part is the probability, or likelihood, of a failure. For example, what is the chance that a piece of manufacturing equipment might malfunction and add the wrong amount of the active ingredient to a pill? This could be a very low probability if the machine is new and well maintained, or it could be higher if the equipment is old or not calibrated correctly. The second part is the severity of the harm. If a pill has slightly too little of a pain reliever, the harm might be low. The patient might just experience less pain relief. But if a heart medication has too much of its active ingredient, the harm could be severe, potentially leading to a serious medical emergency. It is the combination of these two factors that determines the overall level of risk. A problem that is very likely to happen but causes only minor harm might be a lower priority than a problem that is extremely unlikely to happen but would be fatal if it did. Pharmaceutical companies must consider all kinds of potential harm. This includes physical harm from a contaminated or incorrect dose, as well as the harm that comes from a medicine simply not working. For a patient with a life-threatening infection, an ineffective antibiotic is just as dangerous as a contaminated one. Understanding this full spectrum is crucial. Therefore, when a pharmaceutical team talks about risk, they are not speaking in vague terms. They are using a precise scientific framework to evaluate potential threats to drug quality and, by extension, to patient health. This structured way of thinking allows them to move beyond simple guesswork. It provides a common language and a clear methodology for teams across the company, from scientists in the lab to operators on the production line, to work together. Their shared goal is to systematically identify, analyze, and control anything that could possibly compromise the medicine you depend on. No single person can understand all the potential risks involved in making a complex medicine. It requires a diverse group of experts, each bringing a unique perspective to the table. This is why the very first step in any quality risk management process is to assemble a cross-functional team. This team is like a group of highly specialized detectives, each with a different skill set, all working together to solve the same case: how to keep a medicine safe. The team's composition is critical to its success, as a wider range of expertise allows for a more comprehensive and thorough examination of potential problems from every possible angle. The members of this team are carefully chosen. Typically, it will include media group, quality assurance specialist reviewing compliance documents, QA officer checking pharmaceutical paperwork at stock at distribute_equally, a quality assurance specialist who understands the regulatory rules and quality systems inside and out. It will have an engineer who knows the manufacturing equipment and its limitations. A formulation scientist who developed the drug's recipe will be there to explain how different ingredients interact. A microbiologist might be included to assess risks of contamination. An operator from the production line provides practical, hands-on knowledge of how the process actually works day to day. This blend of theoretical knowledge and practical experience is what makes the team so effective at spotting potential issues. Once assembled, the team's initial task is to clearly define the problem or process they are going to analyze. They need to establish a clear scope. Are they looking at the entire manufacturing process for a new drug, or are they focused on a specific change, like introducing a new supplier for a raw material? Defining this scope is essential because it prevents the team from getting sidetracked and ensures their efforts are focused where they are needed most. They will gather all relevant documents such as process diagrams, historical data from similar products, and regulatory guidelines to build a complete picture of the situation they are evaluating. This collaborative approach is fundamental to good risk management. If only the engineers were involved, they might overlook a subtle chemical interaction. If only the scientists were present, they might not understand a practical limitation of the machinery on the factory floor. By bringing everyone together, the team can challenge each other's assumptions and uncover blind spots that one person, working alone, would likely miss. This synergy creates a much more robust and reliable risk assessment. It ensures that the foundation of the entire risk management plan is built on a complete and accurate understanding of the process. Once the expert team is assembled and the scope is defined, their detective work truly begins. Their mission is to identify every conceivable thing that could go wrong. This is the risk identification stage, and it's a structured brainstorming process. The team doesn't just sit around and guess, they use established, systematic tools and methods to guide their thinking. One of the most common and effective tools is called a fishbone diagram, also known as an Ishikawa or cause and effect diagram. It helps the team organize potential causes of a problem into different categories, ensuring a thorough exploration of all possibilities. Imagine the team is worried about the potential problem of pills having inconsistent weight. Using a fishbone diagram, they would draw a horizontal line leading to this problem. Then, they would draw diagonal bones branching off it, with each bone representing a major category of potential causes. These categories are often the 6 M's: manpower, machine, method, material, measurement, and Mother Nature. The team then brainstorms specific causes within each of these categories, creating a comprehensive map of what could go wrong. Another powerful tool for risk identification is the failure mode and effects analysis, or FMEA. This is a more detailed and step-by-step approach. The team breaks down an entire process, like making a batch of pills, into its individual steps. For each step, they ask 3 critical questions. First, what is the potential failure mode? What could go wrong here? For example, in the mixing ingredients step, a failure mode could be mixing for too short a time. Second, what is the potential effect of that failure? In this case, it would be an uneven distribution of the active ingredient in the mix. Finally, the team identifies the potential causes of that failure mode. Why might the mixing time be too short? The cause could be an operator error, an incorrect setting on the mixer's timer, or a power fluctuation. By going through every single process step in this meticulous way, The FMEA method creates a comprehensive list of potential failures, their effects on the final product, and their underlying causes. This detailed list becomes the raw material for the next stage of the risk management process, analyzing and prioritizing these identified risks to determine which ones pose the greatest threat to patient safety. After identifying a long list of potential problems, the team faces a new challenge. They can't fix everything at once. They need a logical way to decide which risks are the most serious and require immediate attention. This is the risk analysis and evaluation phase, where the team moves from what could happen to how bad is it. The goal is to prioritize the risks so that resources, time, money, and effort are focused on the biggest threats to patient safety. To do this, they return to the core definition of risk, the combination of severity and probability. A common and effective tool used for this is risk ranking and filtering. For each potential failure identified, perhaps using FMEA, the team assigns a numerical score to different factors. Typically, they score 3 things on a scale, for instance, from 1 to 5. The first is severity, or S. How severe would the harm to the patient be if this failure occurred? A score of 5 might mean a life-threatening event, while a 1 might mean a minor issue with no health impact. The second is probability, or P. How likely is this failure to happen? A 5 means it's very likely or has happened before, while a 1 means it's extremely unlikely. The third factor often included is detectability, or D. How likely are we to detect the problem before the medicine reaches the patient? A high score, like 5, is bad. It means the failure is very difficult to detect with our current testing and controls. A low score, 1, is good. It means we would almost certainly catch the problem. The team then multiplies these 3 scores together, S times P times D, to calculate a risk priority number, or RPN. A failure with a high RPN is a top priority risk because it is severe, likely to happen, and hard to detect. This ranking process transforms a long, overwhelming list of potential issues into a clear, prioritized action plan. The team can then use a tool like a risk map, which is a simple chart. The vertical axis represents the severity of harm, and the horizontal axis represents the probability of occurrence. Each identified risk is plotted on this map. Risks that land in the top right corner, high severity and high probability, are colored red and are clearly the most critical. Risks in the bottom left, low severity and low probability, are colored green. This visual tool makes it incredibly easy for everyone to see which risks demand immediate action and which can be managed through routine procedures. Let's walk through a simple, practical example to see how this all works in the real world. Imagine a pharmaceutical company, Pharmaco, has been successfully making a popular blood pressure pill for years. To improve efficiency, the manufacturing team proposes a change. They want to replace the old manual step of scooping and weighing a key raw material with a new automated vacuum transfer system. This seems like a great idea. It could be faster, reduce dust in the air, and lessen the chance of human error. But this change also introduces new unknown risks that must be managed carefully. The company immediately assembles a cross-functional QRM team. The team includes an engineer who understands the new vacuum system, a formulation scientist who knows how the raw material behaves, a quality assurance expert, and an operator who will be using the new equipment. Their goal is to assess the risk of this proposed change. Using a tool like FMEA, they begin to break down the new process. One step they identify is transferring the material from its storage drum to the main mixing tank, using the new vacuum system. They start brainstorming potential failure modes for this specific step. One potential failure mode they identify is that the vacuum system could break the particles of the raw material into a much finer powder than before. The team then asks, what is the effect of this failure? The formulation scientist explains that if the particles are too fine, they might dissolve too quickly in the body, releasing the drug much faster than intended. This could cause a patient's blood pressure to drop dangerously low. The team rates the severity of this harm as very high, for example, a 5 out of 5. This is a serious potential safety issue that immediately gets everyone's full attention. Next, the team evaluates the probability of this particle breakage happening. The engineer consults the equipment specifications and data from the manufacturer. They determine that while the system is designed to be gentle, there is a moderate chance, say a 3 out of 5, that some particle damage could occur, especially if the system isn't calibrated perfectly. Finally, they consider detectability. Could they easily detect this problem? The team realizes that their standard quality tests at the end of the process might not catch subtle changes in particle size. This makes the problem hard to detect, a 4 out of 5. The resulting high-risk priority number, 5 times 3 times 4, or 60, signals that this is a major risk that must be controlled before the new system can be approved. Identifying and ranking risks is only half the battle. The next and most critical phase is risk control. This is where the team answers the question, what are we going to do about it? For each significant risk that was identified, especially those with a high-risk priority number, the team must develop a mitigation plan. This is a formal strategy designed to either reduce the probability of the failure happening in the first place, or to improve our ability to detect it if it does happen. The goal is to bring the risk down to an acceptable, manageable level. It's about taking proactive steps to build a stronger defense. Returning to our Pharmaco example with the new vacuum transfer system, the team now focuses on the high-risk issue of particle breakage. Their mitigation plan might include several actions. First, to reduce the probability of the failure, the engineer could propose installing a special controller on the vacuum system to carefully regulate the transfer speed, making it gentler. They might also decide to perform a series of validation studies using different speeds to find the optimal setting that doesn't damage the material. This directly tackles the root cause of the problem, making the failure less likely to occur. Next, the team works on improving detectability. The quality assurance expert might suggest adding a new testing step to the process. They could propose using a laser particle size analyzer to test a sample of the raw material after it has gone through the vacuum system, but before it's mixed into the batch. This new test would act as a safety net. It would confirm that the particle size is still within the acceptable range. If the test fails, the batch of material is rejected before it can be used, preventing a potentially dangerous product from ever being made. This action doesn't stop the failure, but it ensures it is caught. Once the mitigation plan is created, it must be formally approved and implemented. This involves updating official manufacturing documents, writing new standard operating procedures, and training the operators on the new process and the new testing requirements. This isn't just a casual agreement, it's a documented change to the way the medicine is made. The company must invest the necessary resources, buying the new controller, purchasing the particle size analyzer, and dedicating time for training to put the plan into action. This commitment turns the risk assessment from a theoretical exercise into a real improvement in process control and patient safety. Quality risk management is not a one-time event. You don't just do a risk assessment, file a report, and forget about it. It is a living, breathing process that must be continuously monitored and updated. This is the risk review stage, and it is a fundamental part of the QRM lifecycle. Markets, technologies, and scientific understanding all change over time. An acceptable risk today might become unacceptable tomorrow. Therefore, companies must regularly revisit their risk assessments to ensure they are still relevant and effective. This creates a cycle of continuous improvement that strengthens quality over the long term. Think back to the Pharmaco example. After implementing their mitigation plan for the new vacuum system, the team's job isn't done. They would schedule a periodic review, perhaps every 6 months or a year, to check on how things are going. During this review, they would look at real data. Have there been any instances where the new particle size test failed? Have operators reported any issues with the new equipment? Is there any new scientific literature about this type of raw material? This review process ensures that the controls they put in place are actually working as intended in the real world. New information is a key trigger for a risk review. For example, what if the supplier of the raw material informs Pharmaco that they are making a small change to their own production process? This news should immediately trigger the QRM team to reconvene. They would need to assess if this change from the supplier could affect the material's behavior in their vacuum transfer system. Even a small change far up the supply chain could introduce new risks that need to be evaluated. This is why risk management must be a dynamic process, ready to adapt to new information from both inside and outside the company. This commitment to review and improvement is what makes the system so robust. It allows companies to learn from experience and to proactively adapt to a changing environment. By constantly monitoring their processes and reviewing their risk assessments, pharmaceutical manufacturers can catch small issues before they become big problems. This ongoing vigilance is essential for maintaining a state of control. It demonstrates a deep commitment to quality that goes beyond simply meeting the minimum regulatory requirements. It is about striving for excellence and ensuring that patient safety remains the top priority, day in and day out. In the end, every step of the quality risk management process, from assembling the team to the continuous review cycle, is focused on a single, non-negotiable goal: protecting the patient. The complex diagrams, the numerical scores, and the detailed procedures are all tools designed to ensure that the medicine in your hand is safe and will do what it is supposed to do. A good QRM program acts as the immune system for the manufacturing process, constantly searching for and neutralizing threats before they can cause harm. It is the practical application of a company's promise to put patients first in every decision it makes. This relentless focus on preventing problems builds quality directly into the product from the very beginning. Instead of relying solely on testing a few finished products to catch mistakes, which is like checking for a fire only after the smoke alarm goes off, QRM builds firewalls throughout the entire system. It helps companies understand their processes so deeply that they can control the sources of variation and prevent defects from happening in the first place. This leads to a more consistent, reliable, and trustworthy supply of medicine, which is critical for patients who depend on these therapies every single day of their lives. This commitment to quality also builds something else that is incredibly valuable: trust. When patients, doctors, and pharmacists know that a company uses a rigorous, science-based approach to manage risk, they have greater confidence in the medicines that company produces. This trust is the foundation of a pharmaceutical company's reputation. A single major quality failure can shatter that trust in an instant, causing damage that can take years to repair. A strong and transparent QRM system is one of the most powerful ways a company can demonstrate its commitment to ethical and responsible manufacturing. Therefore, mastering quality risk management is not just a regulatory burden or a technical exercise, it is a core part of a pharmaceutical company's identity and its social contract with the public. It is the framework that allows science, engineering, and operational expertise to come together in the service of public health. By systematically identifying, analyzing, and controlling risks, companies ensure the integrity of their products, protect the well-being of patients around the world, and earn the trust that is essential for modern healthcare. It is the unseen but absolutely vital guardian of our collective health.